Hey there, sorry for the jump scare, but this is just a podcast episode that we recorded live on stream. I hope you guys enjoy it. Guess let's just get started then. If everyone's all right with that. So I just kind of
Yeah.
wanted to introduce ourselves for whoever doesn't know each of us. So I guess I can start. I'm Gallum.
Mhm.
I do Ironman, and as all of us do, and very much enjoy it. I started doing YouTube a little while ago, like 5 months ago, and I've been enjoying it a lot. So that's who I am.
Awesome. All right, I'll go next. I'm Quinny, mate. I'm also one of the Ironman. That's the whole reason we're here. Um, I started doing an Ironman about 2 years ago on Twitch, and then about a year and a bit ago, or a year ago, started uploading to YouTube. And yeah, I've had an absolute blast doing it. It's revitalized the game for me, and yeah, having an absolute blast, and that's led me to meet you, wonderful people. So yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time we've ever
Uh,
been in a call together, all of us.
right.
It's awesome.
I'll go next. My name is Azure. I started doing Ironman, I think, in late February or early March after being persuaded by Quinny and Sickloot. And same thing with Quinny. I think it really revitalized the game for me. After hitting 700 viewer score, I think that the game felt a little bit stale. There was many more chores on my list to do after that point, and because it took so much longer to accomplish those things, I decided to hop into the Ironman grind, and I actually really love it. I think it adds a new perspective to the game, and so far it's been a blast.
I guess I'm last then.
Yeah.
Hello, I am Sickloot. I am Iron Man turned Ultimate Iron Man. Basically, it's like an Iron Man, except I also can't use storage. I have been doing YouTube for a year and a week now, I guess. My anniversary was just last week, which is kind of interesting. And I think without the Iron Man concept, I probably wouldn't be playing BDO anymore. I'm pretty tired of like the typical gear treadmill, so finding a different way to play the game that makes it interesting, I think is the reason I'm still here.
Yeah, kind of same here. Just like
Oh yeah.
I definitely don't think I'd be playing the game anymore if I didn't do Iron Man. I think it's just a super fun one to play the game. It just adds so much because you're doing so many different things, and it's just kind of crazy. Um, I had a question for you, Quinny. So you're the one who came up with the name for this. Why? What? How did you come up with that?
Look, I've got a friend that works in tax, to say the least,
Okay.
and we give him stick all the time about taking our money, basically our hard-earned money, and then I obviously related that to the concept of the fact that none of us basically pay the tax that we would if we use the marketplace and video. So
Yeah.
it was a bit of a funny concept for me to blend those two sort of like groups together and have a bit of a chuckle. But yeah, because getting away from the marketplace is kind of freeing as well. So I imagine tax evasion in real life isn't as fun, but yeah, I know we'd all love to do it.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I'll kind of start off now, I guess, with what made you guys want to do YouTube. So my biggest thing that I wanted to do was I just noticed a lack of like Black Desert content that wasn't just like stream and VODs, that was more like storytelling. And I saw what you guys were doing and I just thought that was super cool. And like I had a bunch of like RuneScape that I used to watch and stuff, and I just thought that was super cool. Those types of things like different Iron Man, like Settled and stuff, and like all those big inspirations for me. And yeah, I was wondering what made you guys want to do that too.
Okay, I mean, I can go first, I guess. Um, I started when I started playing Iron Man. It was to me it was like a little bit like Sickly has said before. It's like a proof of concept. So much like his ultimate is at the moment. Just like, is it possible, and how far can you take it? Um, just talking to my friends about doing an Ironman in BDO, they were like, "You're an idiot. What do you mean you're not using the marketplace? What do you mean you're not spending money on the game? Like, how is that fun? You know?" And so I thought a bit similar to you, how you said, you know, that I felt like that was a lack of content. That was kind of like a journey. Really, the only person that I knew that was doing it was someone like Fake Uniform. He was the only one doing, especially really good storytelling content at the time. So I just set out with the plan of I'm just going to record it, and if I enjoy it and I stick with it, I'll do something with YouTube for it. Because it's just, I guess it was a gap in the market for me as well. Like, it's not all about, you know, I guess clout, but I saw that there was no content related to it, and I'd been spending a lot of time playing RuneScape at the time, and loved the idea of Iron Man. The fact that you learn so much about the game, how much just a wide variety of knowledge, and you're forced to do things that you wouldn't on a main account. So you open up so many more avenues of fun, I guess, to put to put it bluntly. I guess not many people would consider some of the things we do fun, but yeah. So then to put it on YouTube was interesting. It's never something I've never done before. I've never done video editing. Obviously, there's great examples of what you can and can't do in video editing out there. Learning the things around copyright and all of that stuff's been really difficult. But yeah, that was pretty much my motivation for doing YouTube. Was it looked like fun. I wanted to document the journey, and yeah, it's been an absolute blast. I don't regret a single thing about it. Hey.
Okay, so I guess if we're gonna go in order, I guess I'll go next. So for me, YouTube has kind of, I want to say that I kind of grew up with YouTube. I remember being, I think, like 8 or 9 years old whenever YouTube came out, and in my middle school years, like my 7th and 8th grade years, I quite literally would run home from the bus and then just hop in a Skype call and then sit there and make videos with my friends online. And I think that that's just developed into what I've done today. Even though I had no reason behind it, like no motivation, I just thought it was fun. It was just something that naturally came to me. And due to that natural draw to it, I further pursued it into college, and that's what I study now, film and video production. And I think that using Black Desert and just video games is an outlet for me in order to showcase my abilities and display what I've learned. But I also think it's really fun. I think in a niche game like Black Desert, even though its name has been thrown around tens of thousands of times, like a lot of people in the MMO genre know what this game is, there still is such a small pool of content creators on YouTube for the game. And not that it's a bad thing that the Twitch scene is oversaturated for it, but whenever I dove into the YouTube scene on Black Desert, that was one of the few things that I noticed that I think the only person that I remember seeing at the time who Quinny mentioned was Fake Uni, who really made storytelling content where there was people that were in the scene that made things like it or similar. Like there's tons of Road 2 series, but there was only so many that stuck out like Fake Uni. And he was a big inspiration to me whenever I first started making content about the game. It went from me just compiling clips over montage music, and then it turned into me actually trying to like write scripts and trying to narrate on top of my clips to have a direction from point A to point B to eventually tell an entire story. And over the past few years, that's just where my channel has evolved into. And I think it's a really fun thing to do as well. And I know that a lot of people out there have been interested in it as well, but they just don't really know where to start. So I think having people like us that do it, allow them to see it, because the same way that I saw Fake Uni, there's people that see us that may want to do it as well. And I'm very grateful to be in the position that we're at. So that's where mine kind of stemmed from. And that's why I do it.
That's so cool, man. I love that shit. I love
Yeah,
it.
that's great.
I just think it's fun, bro. I just think it's fun.
Yeah.
I like it.
I guess it's my turn then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I started YouTube for a couple of different reasons. I guess the reason I got into the Ironman was because of Settled from RuneScape. His content is by far the best I've ever seen, and it kind of like motivated me to be interested in creating content like that. The reason I started on BDO is because I've been playing this game for nearly a decade now, and honestly, I should just retire from the game. But what are you gonna do? We're all kind of stuck here. The basic idea for me on YouTube was that I thought that the challenge would be more enjoyable if I had people to share it with. And I think doing it on your own is a whole new aspect of the game, and it is also fun. But I really wanted to share it with other people who might also be interested. And I didn't even know anyone else was doing it at the time until I had like 6 or 8 videos out, and then Quinny actually commented on one of my videos. And that was the first time I knew anybody else was doing something similar. So
Mm.
Yeah, I
I
also
remember. I
I
remember.
I kind of was also in the same boat. I was like cooking up this idea of doing Iron Man and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be totally unique. And then I went looking like 3 or 4 days before I actually started making stuff. I was like, oh wait, this has already been done. But I figure I can give it my own spin, try it out. But yeah, definitely saw your guys' stuff and yoinked a couple things rules wise.
But that's been fun. Is like to see how different everyone's journeys have been and all their like rules and everything like that. Things that they don't want to include, things that they do. It's been really cool to see, especially like taking six perspective where it's like just masochism turned up to 11. It's like I want to play the game my way. I want to play the game I want to play, which is like it's kind of fun because not many people get the ability to do that. Most games you kind of railroaded to playing the way you want to play, and to be able to take the reins back and be like, no, I'm going to create my own fun is the freeing part, I reckon.
Yeah, it's
well, I think I've just had enough of the gear treadmill, you know? Like once you get to
Yeah,
the end game in BDO, there is no
it's the
content in
same
this
shit.
game, despite what people
Mm,
say. Like you just get gear to go in more circles, to get more gear to go in more circles. It's just a treadmill that I didn't want to be on anymore. So my options were create my own fun in a sandbox or to find another sandbox. So
yeah, yeah. It's
yeah,
funny that we've all ended up in the same spot too. Like the concept has spread, and we all like obviously RuneScape is one of the biggest, longest standing MMOs out there, and the fact that we've all kind of adapted to that same concept and gone, that actually sounds wicked.
Right.
Definitely is funny that we've all gravitated towards that, and like I imagine you guys are a bit the same. The amount of people that say to you, "Wow, that's insane," grats, or you know, that's such a sick concept, or on the other hand, like you're insane. What are you doing? Why wouldn't you just play like normal? It's getting a lot of traction. A lot of people are talking about it and thinking about it, and people are making a lot of accounts based on just us,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
which
definitely
is
cool.
crazy. Crazy.
I mean, for example, in my particular case, like how Sick Loop mentioned Settled from RuneScape, I don't even play RuneScape. I've played it, I think, for 1 month in total. What do they call it?
Mm.
What is the membership called in that game? A bond, right?
A bond, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
yep.
I had one bond. I think it was like my sophomore year of college, and I played it for 1 month, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had like a general idea because it's an MMO. But for the most part, I watched people like Settled, and then I started watching Gilnor Games, which is like the
Mm.
collaboration of all the creators in OSRS. I watch all their videos. I don't know what's going on, even though I've been learning through their videos. But I think it's really cool to adopt ideas that they've done on RuneScape and um bring them to BDO, just like how like the traditional Iron Man, no central market, no pearl shop, whatever. And then now seeing Sick Loose iteration of an Ultimate Iron Man with no storage, stuff like that. I think it's really cool that we're
Mm.
able to bring these ideas and these concepts to life in a different game. Where I'm sure that it's in other genres as well. I'm sure that there's games like Wizard 101 where it's an old MMO, but they probably do some type of challenge like that where they lock their level or do things similar to it. And I think it's just really cool that we're able to bring those things to this game. And I'm sure that over the next few years we'll be able to evolve and do more things than just what's to come right now. But I feel like we're in that first wave of that type of genre and like those challenges, if that makes sense. So
Mm.
hoping that this game continues to blow up and skyrocket. We hopefully will see other creators step into the field and take on their inspiration, because like you guys mentioned, the cool thing about this concept is that you get to make your own rules. Some people, I think that there was one guy who was doing like, if he gets an accessory drop or any item to drop on his own, then he can buy it from the marketplace, stuff
Mm.
like that. I think it's really
Mm.
interesting. So I'm excited to see what people make in the future or what they come up with.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's like a series that I watched on RuneScape where they're just like, once I get it, I can buy it or whatever. But I've also
Yeah,
thought about that
exactly.
one. It seems like an interesting thing. I kind of suggest
That's
that to
called a
people.
it's called a
Bronze Man,
Bronze
is it?
Man.
Bronze Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
there's an
bronze man.
official RuneScape plugin for the Bronze Man, and it basically unlocks the purchase of it once you drop it, and it falls in your collection log. Then you'll be able to buy it from the GE.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Whenever somebody comes to me and is like, "Hey, I kind of want to play Iron Man, but I don't really want to I don't really want to like commit to it." I'm like, "Oh, you should try out Bronze Man," and I explain to them the rules. And I don't know if anyone actually has started it, but I think it'd be pretty cool. I think it's a pretty good starting point, pretty good place for someone who's more casually doing it.
Yeah. I'm sure that there are people are that do it. It's just again the whole thing of the YouTube scene in Black Desert is just not that prominent outside of guides and tutorials. Not that those are bad.
Yeah.
I think that every game needs guides and tutorial videos, but I do really enjoy the video series of people doing Road to X series
Mhm.
and then just like implementing challenges on their account. I think that those type of video series are really entertaining to watch.
Yeah, they're a good staple of most like most games, especially that have a progression path. You know,
Yeah.
and people do like to invest, I guess, a bit of emotional energy in someone else's journey, especially being content creators. They kind of, for some weird reason, people look up to us like we're, important or to be respected, just because we do it. So people kind of, they like to see someone that they favor succeed, you know.
Yeah.
So they get emotionally invested in it, and that's where the retention comes, is when you make like a connection with someone and they continue coming back because they want to see how you are, how you're going, how your progress is, you know. And they fail with you, they suffer with you, and they succeed with you. And that's like a real like personalized kind of interaction that I really enjoy about it as
Yeah,
Yeah,
well.
they're on the journey with you.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I've really enjoyed that
it's
aspect of
awesome.
it. It's very fun. Definitely like a nice community that gets built up around it, and it's very fun.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So I always get asked this question, and so I wanted to ask you guys it too, because I've given my answer before in one of my videos and on stream. But if you had a rule that you could break, what would it be and why? So like without
What a
consequence,
question.
and basically, so like my rules, my thing would be, I always said it would be getting a duo tree spirit belt just for the stupid log that I was trying to finish. That thing was awful to get. That's what I've always said, but I was wondering if you guys had something similar.
Man, what a question. That's good.
That is a good question.
Uh,
The first thing that
Look,
comes to my mind, sorry.
now you go, you go, you go.
I
I'm
was just
still
saying
sort of thinking.
the first thing that comes to my mind, I don't know if I'll be able to figure something out that's better than this. For my particular set of rules, I'm only allowed to have one character, so I'm limited by that. So I can't make boss ults, I can't make mules, I can't make uh like a season character to tag or whatever. With the recent edition of Dosa being released, I really do want to make that character, but whenever I think about it, it's okay, if I limit myself to one character and then I make a Dosa, I would then have to go back and redo all the quest lines, like Mount of Eternal Winter, which these aren't incredibly long quest lines, but it's more so the tens of hours that I've already spent doing them. I don't want to do it again, kind of thing. So like I would want to allow myself to make a second character, but at the same time, I feel like that goes against the integrity of the challenge whenever I first created it. So
Fair.
Yeah, fair enough. I think the only one that I would consider, and it's not even a big thing really. Like on off the top of the head, there's not a lot that I would like to change about my rules as such. But I mean, I've put up with them for 2 years now, so it's kind of like just taking it in my stride. But as far as things that are slightly inconvenient, is getting a villa buff. So like obviously having a paid, like the it was at Nafart tent or whatever, the paid tent,
Yeah.
just to be able to pop a villa buff would be cool. But it's not necessary. Like ultimately, it's like a 10 or 15 minute trip to go out to the villa, get the villa buff, and then go to the grind spot. But yeah, honestly, like being free of the pearl shop's kind of good. Like it's fun. I don't know. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but looking at the pearl shop and going, oh man, look at all that money I'm saving. Like it's kind of like the temptation's not there.
Yeah, I get that. I feel that too.
I think the reason that we do these challenges is for the fun aspect, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I don't think there's a world in which I would change my rules because the rules are the reason that I'm having fun, if that makes sense.
That's
And
fair.
even if there was like a guilt-free loophole, I think that I, as a person, would just not enjoy the challenge as much because I took a loophole and I knew that I took a loophole. Even if it was like free of blame or whatever from the community, it's more of like a personal thing. The reason I'm doing this is not for the community, it's for me. And I'm just sharing it with the community because it adds an element of fun for me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That's a good
Yeah, well
answer.
said.
Yeah,
What about you, mate?
me?
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Callum.
Oh, I already said just the tree spirit belt. That thing was the worst
Oh,
thing
that's
I've
right,
ever
sorry.
gotten. It took so long to get. It's soul sucking to grind out those stupid trees. I hate it so much.
I'm still waiting for an Orkinrad, dude. I feel you. I feel you. The last thing standing between me and the HP journal completion.
I finished it, so that
Damn
was pretty cool.
Orkinrad.
So I guess other things that I wanted to talk about was like, what are your opinions on some of the new updates they've done, like the condensing and stuff? How's that affected your Ironman, if at all? Because I've had some pretty big effects with that. I can talk about those in a bit, but like condensing of the fruits and powders and whatever, or traces, I mean, or just
Yeah.
like any other updates that you can think of.
I mean, besides the fact that when they did their first iterations of condensing, they put everything in the marketplace and they did a lot of, they put items in there. Like when they did the life crystals, I had like eight of those vitality crystals of the mastery ones already made, slotted in. And when they changed them, they put them in my market. So I just lost 80 mastery straight out of the bag. And that was like,
Brother.
oh, that's in my market. That's gone. It's like, nice. and then a few of the other ones they did. I've got like 2.5 bills sitting in my market now for no other reason other than they just thought that was what people wanted. Given the past, they'd just put stuff in people's like storages or markets, in people's storages, so like in Heidel. Why they pivoted away from that, I've got no idea. But look, we don't really question what they do. They're not going to listen to us anyway. But
True.
as far as the other consolidations in the way of traces and fruits and stuff, that's been phenomenal for me. That's a huge bottleneck released because like things like trace of death, trace of violence were completely useless to me. Even trace of memory to an extent. That was just like a dead piece of content. And now it's all consolidated into one. I've got that many fruits and traces that I could get to Guru 20 Alchemy without running out of traces probably. And fruits. So it's good, I think, in the way of allowing people to have more access to materials because as before those archaeologist sacks and the farmers sacks and all of those things, they would split the usefulness among a whole bunch of different resources. So you could only make a certain type of alchemy or a certain type of item or anything like that. So now you can consolidate that into one direct path depending on where you want it. It's much nicer for everybody. Again, it makes it easier for us Ironmen. So depending on how you look at Ironman, making it easier is kind of cool, but also streamlining a process to make it faster is also, I think, a good thing for the longevity of a game like BDO, with the complexity that it has in items and recipes and things you've got to remember, to know that you just don't have to remember those things. You know, if it's got a trace in it, it's going to be one, or if it's got a fruit in it, it's going to be one. It just kind of, you can clear your mind a little bit when doing that stuff.
Yeah. I know for me, as soon as they consolidated all those boss Rs and stuff, I was like barely starting to work on boss armor and stuff, so that like saved me a whole bunch of grinding for that. And then same thing with the
Yeah.
traces. I was actively working towards a boat, and I needed to go grind out a bunch of what you call them? They're in South Valencia, kind of by Wargons. The enormous. They were
Bashams?
yeah those. They dropped traces of Earth, and I needed a bunch of those for something, and then like a few days later they consolidated them as well. So I was just like, it kind of skipped out on some grinds that I was kind of wanting to do, but at the same time I was like, I'm okay with it, whatever. For me,
Me personally, I think that overall it's a better thing that they consolidated things for new and veteran players. On my main account, I didn't really do much life skilling and stuff like that. So whenever they consolidated everything, I was already playing on the Iron Man account and I only viewed it as a positive. So I don't have as strong of an opinion on it. I'm just glad that there's fewer items and it's all in one now. That's like all I have to really say.
Yeah.
oh yeah, storage space is a big problem too. I'm
Yeah.
constantly struggling. I hate it so much.
Okay, my turn, I
Yeah.
Okay, so item consolidation. Aside from every freaking week having to put a clip in a video about how PA has ruined my Ironman account because they put something in my market or in my storage or whatever else,
Yeah.
the reason that the ultimate is theoretically possible is because of their item consolidation. If scrolls didn't stack, it would not be possible. If traces weren't all one, it would probably not be possible. Things like that. So the reason I'm even doing this challenge, because I think it's possible, is because of all their consolidation. The downside is that they keep putting things in my storage now instead of my market, which I now also can't use. So we're back in this infinite loop of PA keeps trying to ruin my freaking Ironman accounts, man.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I was gonna say for Sicklu, I bet it's a big W because you are so limited by your space.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's like the one thing that I
Even
looked
for
at.
us.
Because I remember whenever I was getting into the Iron Man account, I was completely oblivious that they even consolidated all the boss orders. Like I remember reading about it or hearing about it, but I didn't really. It was one of those things where I heard it one in one ear out the other kind of thing. And then once I got on the Iron Man account and I looked at it, I went, "Oh crap! So I don't need 100 Zarka ores. I just need 100 boss ores overall." So that helped my progression a lot, and I think it would help every other player's progression, Iron Man or normal. So
Yeah, so on my regular Ironman, I spent 8 months trying to get Uragons, and the year it took me to finish the challenge, I still didn't get Uragons. I had to hand my Muskins into Jatina and have her swap them to Uragons. And by the end of it, at 700 gear score, I still didn't have a pair of Uragons. So the consolidation of the auras has made getting boss gear so much easier that in the first 2 months on this ultimate account, I already have a full wheel boss gear and we're just ranking it up now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
massive, dude.
it took me like 2, maybe 3 weeks to get a full wheel of boss gear, which I don't know how I feel about that actually, because like it happened like a week or two after I started playing, I want to say, and I was just like, this is the best way to do it. But I think if I went back to it, I probably would have limited myself on like those boss trains and stuff, like on field bosses, but I wasn't killing quite as many, just because it did make it so much easier, and it skipped over a lot of that like early grind. It felt like, at least for me.
Yeah, power creep's gotten out of control with that. I remember starting the game in, I think I started in maybe 2017, pretty much like just after DK release. And the game back then, it took me like 4 days, 5 days just to get to level 50, you know, like just getting my bearings, discovering everything, working out what the hell the game was, you know, like I had friends that played it, but even then they were like maybe level 55, 56 at the time, you know, and to see what the game was then, like everything kind of had a purpose. Like Balanos wasn't as useful, but it had a quest line in it, you know, it's like tutorial area. And then Serendia was like, okay, you actually were grinding a bit of Serendia to get some levels. It wasn't for long, but you were actually using all the content on your way up, you know. The sad thing for me, which is honestly probably the biggest part I've enjoyed about watching Cyclo, is that his ultimate was forced to go to these spots because it's like, man, you got 100 gear score. You're not you're not skipping anything, dude. You know.
Yeah.
And so it's like that was sort of what I tried to include in my playthrough. But again, I had no idea what it would be like. You know, when I started, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be stuck at mains for a while. We're going to grind out some Schultz belts. You know, and then I'm going to have to go to Sorsons for some trash loot. Might have to get a wagon. You know, do it the old school way. And then I forgot about all the things they throw at you as a new player. You know, like suddenly I'm 400 gear score in a week. You know, and you're like, wow, okay, shit, that's a bit quicker than I thought it was. You know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
uh,
it's strange, man. It's strange.
I think with the implication of the pen and Tet Black Star that you get now, I
Oh
think
yeah,
if you are full pen to Vala and everything with pen and Tet Black Star, you're like what, six something gear score or something?
nuts, isn't it? Yeah. Well, you
Or
leave
what,
season at like 560 or something, 580, don't you? Something like that. I don't know.
let me check it, bro. I remember looking at it recently on stream and I went, wow, so if you're full pen to Vala, you finish season and then you have the pen and Tet Black Star. I remember
Yeah.
looking and I'm like, what? That's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I heard
Like if
about
you
that
do all your
earlier.
journals season and it's like all the family stuff plus the pen black star, you probably roll out a season like what 285 AP or something stupid.
Yeah, it's like a
I thought it was
ridiculous
in the
number.
280s as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something
Something like
crazy.
that.
Here, I'm
That's
doing it right
nuts.
now.
You come out a season and you're like, all right, let's grind Gyphon, you know?
Really. I remember before the Tet and Pen blocks are being added to the game for free. I remember people would graduate season, like depending on the class you're playing and how much knowledge you have on the game, people were just straight up doing Elvia orcs. And I'm like, dude, what?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, efficiency was a big
Wild.
question mark, but it was technically happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, well that's it.
True.
That's
Okay,
it.
yeah. So if you have everything pen Tuvala, like accessories, all pen accessories, all pen Tuvala armor and stuff, and then you have a pen and a Tet Blackstar, you're 567 gear score. Like basically
Crazy.
like 570.
Is that
So
with
you
all
have
the journals as well?
no, that's not even journals.
Wow.
So you're at like 260-ish AP, you're about to hit the 261 bracket, and then you're over 300 DP. And you can do that in what, a week?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
less? Maybe less than a week?
Yeah. Well, if you know what you're doing, you'd do it even quicker. Yeah,
Oh, for
absolutely.
sure. You can do that in a day if you know what you're doing.
Mm,
Also, pen capotias. Somebody in my chat just said they're also free, pretty much.
yeah,
With
Here,
your
I'll
level
put
ups
hitting
and
level
I'll put
62.
straight
I'll
up
put
to
Pen Capotia belt
600
and
gear
necklace.
score.
How about that, alright?
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so no journals. No journals. Like let's say you have the Ator's Power Stone, because you might do the quest line, right? So
Yeah.
with the Ator's Power Stone, I'll put a screenshot in general just so you guys can see it. If you guys want to pull it up. Like no journals, you just straight up have all Pen Tuvala, and then you have the Kaposha belt, Kaposha neck, Pen Blackstar, Tet Blackstar, with the Notorious Power Stone. You're over the 261 AP bracket.
Dude, that's huge.
I'm
It's
pulling
huge.
that up.
And you trip your way over one of the logs and you're 269 AP. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
Jeez, man. I mean, that just shows how much the game has evolved over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know how that translates as far as new player retention, but man, if I was 500 and something gear score after a week back when I started, jeez,
Jeez.
whole different ball game.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest thing that made me want to do Iron Man is it just felt like I'm already at the end game almost. Like, give me 2 weeks and I'm there. I was like, that doesn't
Mm,
seem super fun. Just with
nah.
that. Also, sorry about that earlier. My nephews slammed on my door. They're like 4 and 2. They just barged in.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. I'm used to it by now, man. I got an almost 2-year-old. She comes banging at the door. It's like, Daddy, Daddy. I'm like, hey, hey.
All right.
Yeah, we even forgot the Jatina accessories.
Oh yeah, we
Oh,
totally
true.
forgot Jatina too. Yeah, yeah, that's
I
That's
crazy.
mean,
even without
realistically,
the
what are they getting to on season? Like maybe Tet? Maybe Tet? I don't think
Yeah,
inside season you're getting
oh
close to
yeah.
pen. Like, there's a lot of
probably not.
blackstones in that. That's a lot of grinding.
I think the fact that we don't even have to include them in the gear is already astonishing. Is enough said.
Yeah,
Exactly right.
I personally think that's one of the game's biggest weaknesses is giving out so much stuff. I just like I don't think it would be a problem if there was end game to do, but the end game is just more grinding, so it just skips over so much of
Mm.
it. That's my biggest thing with it. Like I don't think it's normally a problem in most games, but this game just has that problem of not being as I don't know, not having anything really to look forward to besides PvP, right?
Yeah,
There's not
that's
even
Yeah.
dead as
PvP,
well, I
man.
Not
know.
even PvP. Yeah, they're actively trying to kill it.
Get all this
Yeah,
gear to go grind AOS.
that's my problem as well. Is like I don't know what they're rushing people toward. Everything that you can do in this game is capped. So
Yep.
why are they handing
Uh-huh.
out gear? They're not reaching toward anything because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Sag, man.
how I remember this discussion being brought up whenever they gave out the free Tet Black Star the first time, where some of the players were like, "Oh, how could you just give out such a quote unquote like prestigious item that people have spent a lot of money and or time for?" And then that same discussion got brought up again when they gave out the pen, because there's tons of videos on YouTube of people spending like thousands of dollars just buying outfits to then turn them into crons to try to get their pen Black Star, and just like
Yeah.
you're mentioning, I feel like a cool thing about the Iron Man account and the way that some of us play it, some of us don't, is that like by playing those game modes where you have those restrictions and stuff, you're able to experience those places in the game that new players probably don't even touch now, like Helms, Elric Shrine, Sawsons, Catfish, like the good old places that you remember
Mm.
back in 2017, 2018. Those new players that walk out after a week of playing the game, almost 600 gear score, they're not gonna go touch those spots. And like Sickly was saying, I don't know what they're bomb rushing these people to go do, because like you said,
Mm.
you're getting like right now the end game is so stale and not that many people are in favor of it. So it's like by them handing out all this free gear, it's you're pushing them further and closer to the end game to then do what? You know, if none of the PvP changes were, changed and PvP was still as lively as it used to be, then yeah, I get it because those new players probably want to partake in like T1 nodes to work their way up to T4s and then Siege and stuff like that, but or uncapped. But yeah, I also agree. I don't know what they're trying to push all these new players into because I think a lot of people would actually enjoy the early game. Just like how if they made a classic server, being able to re-experience those old places that us veteran players are so used to, the new players don't even know what they are. So I mean, they would probably enjoy
Mm.
it because I'm sure that a lot of
Yeah.
people first week into the game, they have the gear that I posted the screenshot of, and then the first thing that they're looking up is how to grind the Regifen. They're looking up some guide.
I love the idea of doing a fresh start server as long as silver doesn't get weight back.
True.
None of
Mm.
that. None of that.
Mm. There's definitely a lot of ways they could go with the game. I think the natural progression, if you take something like RuneScape into account and its similarity in the fact that it's a huge grind, and the grind in almost any MMO is the infinite, as Six so eloquently put it, the gear treadmill. You get to a point in any of those games where you just need a large sum of whatever the in-game currency is to get the gear, or you're grinding for RNG, and there's really that's the only way you go with it. So, um, it's hard to sit back and be confident about the future of a game like this when the changes they make aren't for the people that are loyal to the game and haven't played for they're basically making the game so that people who've played for 3 to 6 months are the ones that they keep pandering to, whereas the rest of us are the ones that keep the game going. We're the ones that are playing it forever because we're the ones that we understand where the game was and where it is now, and we know it's a lot easier than it used to be. So we're much harder to like upset in the way of, oh man, this game's such a grind, you know. We're like, hey man, we've been doing it for 7 years, 10 years, you know, like
I
it's
don't
Yeah.
not
I don't really
it's
even
not foreign
know
to
that
us.
they're I don't know that they're even building toward the new players or the mid game players or anything like that. Because yeah, they're giving them more gear and they're making it easier to reach end game, but there is nothing at end game. So I
Yeah,
think really they're doing the game as a whole a disservice by not adding something to actually do or reach for. Why would somebody join this game despite the fact that it would take you, some guy did it in what, 18 days to get all the way to 700 gear score, when that's all there is? That 18 days is the whole game. Why would
yeah,
you play the game when that's all there is?
Yeah. Something on the same topic of that. I want to hear your guys' opinions because I don't know if I'm in this boat by myself about it. Um, Fallen God gear, right? This is currently the best gear in the game. This is your end game gear. This is what you strive to work towards as a new player, right? Whenever Land of the Morning Light came out and people were able to get Dawn gloves within the first 12 hours or the first day, to me that kind of just strips away some of the worth of what Dawn gloves were. I think if we look at other MMOs, like let's just use like World of Warcraft or something for example, right? If you want to get that super end game gear, you have to spend hours upon hours of grinding dungeons. Like maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't, or like grinding up materials and stuff. I'm probably using a bad game as an example, but you know what I mean, right? I think by them just kind of like handing out stuff as freely as they do is like a double-edged sword. It helps out the new players, but then it prohibits the end game players from really working towards stuff. Like I think the last thing that they added in the game that I really was excited to work towards was the Ator shoes, just because that grind was meticulous. It wasn't as easy. You know what I mean? I understand that some people
mm,
can claim myself. I did get it to drop, but for those of people that had to grind up the 100 embers, like that's a grind. It gives those veteran players an incentive to play to grind. So it's like with these new players that are just being spoon fed all these new pieces of gear that veteran players spent, like, dude, a pen Black Star 2 years ago, that shit is so cool. But nowadays it's like, oh, you just log in, you get it for free. There's nothing that, the way that I view it, there's nothing that really persuades new players to really push or anything. Like there's nothing in the game to really fueled the new player base. You know what I mean? Like for me, if I were to
mm,
step into a new MMO, I like to see that end game boss that I'm like, I want to defeat that boss one day. Then you gradually work your way towards it, or I want that piece of gear. Stuff like that. That's me personally. Um, I know that a lot of people are like, I just want the new item, so I have it, and then I'm done. But nowadays, it's what are you going to go use that gear on?
Mhm.
You grind tens of hours to get your token limbo things, and then you go get your pen debo rings, and now what? What's the next place you go grind? I can't PvP. Like it kind of sucks. You go do AOS.
yeah,
You grind up 100 hours to get a Tet Debo ring, and then what? You just go queue up AOS. Like
yeah, legit.
Queue up for cap content or predetermined gear. Yeah, that's
yeah. I just wish that there was things in the game that really gave incentive to not only new players but also veteran players to like make them want to grind, you know what I mean? I don't want to log on to the
Mm,
game and go, okay, what are we doing today? I want to log in and be like, all right, this is my plan. I want to get this item today. And that's what I love so much about the Ironman content. It's like, okay,
yeah,
today I'm gonna log on, I'm gonna sit in the Varn step and kill Griffins until I get a Griffin helmet. That's fun. I know not everyone thinks the same way, but at least that an individual player has an objective. They have something to work towards.
yeah.
You know,
Not
that
just
again,
get
that's
silver.
I think that's
exactly that's why I like the Iron Man.
I think that's a big thing
Mm,
with other MMOs though. So like you mentioned World of Warcraft and like World of Warcraft, um, their gear and stuff is pretty easy to get. Like it doesn't take super long to get gear. It takes maybe a week or two per patch. but then you have like that insanely cool end game content where you're raiding and doing all of that stuff, and that's like the goal of the game, is to do that raiding to get as far as you can go, because it's actually difficult content. Whereas like something like RuneScape, the goal is pretty much the entire journey, and like
Mm.
BDO is taking the worst of both of those. So it's like it's kind of like RuneScape, but it's giving out the gear like as World of Warcraft. It's kind of how it feels to me.
Mm.
It's like they're giving out stuff that is skipping the journey, but this game is more about the journey than the destination.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and it has to be for an MMO. I think it has to be about the journey more than the destination. And if you take that away from players, there's no retention, there's no appreciation for the fact. You know, like I've been doing this for 2 years, and throughout the entire process, there's moments that I reflect on, and man, that was so cool. That was awesome. I enjoyed the shit out of that. I wish I could go back and do it again. You know, whereas now I feel like, because, you know, like we've said, they're accelerating players to the wall of basically, hey, you're either in the infinite grind or you quit because there's nothing to do. They're just accelerating people towards nothingness and the eventuality of just quitting. And I think that's what we all strive for when we started the Ironman, was to give us that path that Azure talked about, where you're like, okay, I'm working on this one thing, and there's only one way I can do it, and I just got to put the time in, bro. I just got to send it. I just got to grind my ass off for this shit, and maybe I get lucky. And I think once that's gone, the passion for the game is gone. We're not all choice. We're not Zethian. We're not Divios. We're not these people that just can amass a huge amount of silver just for the next bit of content. It's such an infinitesimally small percentage of people that can even do that.
Yeah.
You know, we need a task. We're people. We crave input. We need something to do. And when you put us on a task, we can do it. But when we're given the prospect of, I don't know what's coming, like sovereign weapons. Okay, cool. How many materials are we going to get to enhance them? Oh, it's going to be hard to enhance. Okay, so it's time gated. You know, oh well, that doesn't feel great. You know, like, where are we going? What am I doing with my time?
I'm personally
Why am I not
super
putting it
excited.
into another game where I've got no idea and then I have fun again? You know?
Yeah, I'm personally super excited for sovereign weapons. I think it's gonna be, I don't know. I think it will be something nice to actually work towards, because I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm knocking out fallen gods. I'm knocking out. I'm starting to work on pen accessories, stuff like that, and like I'm getting to the point where it's like, once I get to that point, where to? It's just kind of what you're saying. Like eventually I'll get there, but yeah.
I'm personally not against time gated things. I know that might be a hot take in the BDO scene, at least. I'm personally not against time gated things, just because, for example, like a game like MapleStory, like an overseas game, right? Even though they have a North America server and stuff like that, right? They have a system in the game where once you reach like a certain level, let's just say level 60, for example, right? They have like these arcane stones, and basically what you do every day whenever you log in, you would go kill X amount of mobs per area. So let's say, for example, they implemented an item in the game where it was a stone, and every day you would go kill 1,000 mobs in Calphion. You would go kill 1,000 mobs in the Commissylvia region, the Valencia region, so on and so on, right? And then every day, once you fill up that stone, you are able to tier it up. And then with that tier up of the stone, let's say it gives you just like an extra 1 AP, like plus 1 hidden AP, stuff like that, right? I do enjoy the gradual increase of gear over time. It gives you an incentive to log in. I know that there are weeklies and dailies in Black Desert. Like, you can go kill an X amount of Tongrad mobs, and you get, or like the Lower Gyphon daily, you can go do that, and then you get Kaffir Stone, stuff like that, right? I think those are cool, but I think if they were to implement something towards your gear where you could do a weekly or a daily to increase your gear further and further, I think that would be cool. And I know that with the sovereign weapons, they're implementing like the gem socket or whatever. Like, imagine if those gem sockets you were able to gradually increase over time. So instead of, let's say, like a down attack plus 10% one time gemstone, imagine if you could work it from plus 1% to plus 10%. Stuff like that. It gives players an incentive to log in every day, to gradually work towards something. So I'm not necessarily against time gated stuff, which I know a lot of people were against whenever like Land of the Morning Light came out, where people were like, "Oh, well, I don't want to be time gated by doing an 8-hour quest line to get my gloves. I'd rather just get my gloves and do it." And I'm like, dude, who cares? Just do your 8-hour quest line.
Yeah.
They spent so much time, so much money, so many resources to make this expansion, because the players that complain about not being able to get their gear within the first day are the same players that complain a month later after their expansion drops that there's no content in the game. And I'm like, because all you guys do is bomb rush all this new content that just came out that's supposed to last 6 months, and you do it in the first week. So of course you're bored. Like that's
Yeah.
that's not appealing. If a new expansion comes out, I want to be able to have content for the next like 6 months. You know what I mean? So I'm not
Yeah, that's
against
fair.
time gated stuff, and I'm not saying anyone here is against it or like is for it or whatever. But it's more so that I enjoy the daily or weekly logins, those incentives. I do personally like the weekly potion incentive thing, but
I like that
Yeah,
type of
I
stuff
mean-
too. You go for it.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm all for time gated stuff, providing there's a reason for it to be time gated. It's for sovereign weapons. I was talking last night with my stream, saying that the thing that leaves a bad taste in my mouth about sovereign weapon time gating is that it feels like it's a stalling tactic. If that's how they choose to approach it, they give us this this new boss content that we can do as a group, which is great. We've been asking for it. They've promised it for so long. It's really hype. I'm really excited for the actual content that comes along with sovereign weapons. But my issue is when you achieve the sovereign weapons, what do you do with it? Why time gate us from an item that gives us nothing extra to do with it? You know, you can choose all your extra, with the gems, like you're saying, the gem sockets. You can choose extra stuff for your grind. That's wicked. But there's no associated content with it. So like there's the Deckier spots, but let's be honest, I feel like Deckier is just a really lazy revamp of existing content. It's very easy for them to slap a Deckier's lantern on it and go, oh, it's got more HP, it does more damage, here's a couple new mechanics, drop table, done. Like 5-minute fix. Creating progression out of that is what I think is important. So if you're going to time gate something, that's fine. I'm not against it. I love doing dailies, weeklies, all chipping away at progress. It's about the journey, like we said. But to time gate it through the sovereign weapons, to me, feels like a stalling tactic to go, keep playing the game, guys. We're just working on some stuff. You know, that's the only reason I feel a bit that way with the sovereign weapons. Hey, but I could be totally wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. I'd actually love to be proved wrong with that. But I don't know. It just leaves a sour taste in my mouth.
Are we ready for an opinion completely opposite of everyone else's opinion?
let's hear it.
Absolutely.
Let's hear it.
Go for it, sir.
Okay, here we go. So, touching a little bit on what Azure said about time gating potentially could be interesting. Here's the problem with time gates. Time gating content is not for the player. The design of the time gate is not for the player to drag out the content or to have more fun with it or anything like that. Time gating is very specifically designed to make the game appear bigger than it is. It is to keep you forcibly logging in every single day so that their investors are like, hey guys, this is how many players we have playing our game. Time gating is so bad and it feels so bad because it's not designed for the player. It's designed for them to make more money from investors, essentially. So I don't think that time gating should exist in any MMO. I think it really kind of flips in the opposite direction, which is that people feel bad about when they're busy and they can't log in. That person is now permanently 1 day behind. And every time that happens, they're now permanently another day behind. So within a couple of weeks, you could reach a point to where someone who has a full-time job and maybe some kids or family or whatever just can't play this game anymore because now they're never going to be on an equal playing field to somebody that can play every day. And that is a big problem. I think with what Azure said about them making new regions and people wanting to rush through them in 6 hours and just have nothing to do with the region, I don't think that's why people do it. I think the reason that we rush through the regions in this game is because there's no content in the regions. If Boss Blitz came out and it was like, hey guys, you can just spam these bosses and get rewards like it was originally supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be a weekly time gate thing, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that. They were supposed to just
No.
be bosses that you could kill as a grind spot, not something that you would go do. But if it was just bosses that had mechanics that took a couple of minutes to kill and you could spam them for like a bill an hour, then Land of Morning Light, when it came out, would have been much more popular and there would have been a reason to be there. I think their execution of the game has really let them down, and now they have to time gate things in order to keep people playing for their investors. And it's at the point now where if you don't like PvP and you only want a PvE in this game, then you log in once a week, you run 5 bosses, you run 2 dungeons, and then you log out until next week.
Yeah.
I think what you brought up is like very, very valid. I know that in the background, like that is what the time gated stuff is for. For me personally, the only reason why I have that viewpoint of where I am not against if they were to add weekly or like daily things towards benefiting gear is strictly just because I was again going back to Land of the Morning Light because I think that's just the perfect example. I just remember people were like, "I'm really upset. This new content just dropped. I've already done all of it in a week." And it's not that that's a bad thing. You can't blame the player for it, necessarily. It does come down to if the developers drop enough content for us to, munch up on for 6 months. But I do think that it's just it would be nice if there were other things where we had incentive to log in. Because it's like, for example, whenever Sovereign weapons come out, right? It's gonna be better than Black Star. But if the game stays in what its current state is right now, okay, whenever Sovereign weapons come out and we spend all the time to go do the group bosses, to go do them with our guild members, our friends, whoever it may be, and then we spend however much time it takes to get the resources to enhance it, get it all the way up to wherever we get it to, what do we do with it? Unless there's like new grind locations and stuff for us to go grind. But the problem is that right now people don't want to spend all their time and effort to go grind when they're just going to get gear that makes them just go grind more because there's no PvP right now. That's
That
just where I
comes
view it.
That's like right back to my point of if Boss Blitz was designed in a different way, then it would feel different to grinding. It would feel like there's 2 things to do in the game instead of just 1 thing to do in the game. And
Yeah.
the quote unquote Boss Blitz would have been like a boss challenge mode that would have been worth doing. It would have rewards that were worth doing and something that you could repeat.
Yeah.
Therefore, there's your reason to log in. There's your reason to get more gear. It is to clear higher calamity level bosses or to do it faster for more money an hour or whatever the case may be. And then the objective of the game is no longer to turn your brain off and go in a circle holding 2 buttons. Your objective is to become very skilled at certain bosses so that you can clear them very quickly and therefore make more money than someone that can't clear them as quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think being able to go back and kind of just repeat the same tier difficulty boss over and over again without being restricted by doing it, what is it, 5 a week, right? I would like that a
Yeah.
lot, but
Mm.
the thing is, like, I'm on both sides of it. I like the fact that we could just if boss splits weren't capped at 5 a week, I think that'd be really fun because then if you complete it once, you could try over and over again and then just get better and better rewards and just like kind of infinitely do it or for however long you want to do it. But at the same time, I
Yeah.
do understand like both sides of it where people want more weekly content and then people want things to just be open and accessible freely without being capped. I get both sides of it, and I kind of wish that there was a balance between the two where that they had incentives for both sides. That's just how I'm on it.
I kind of get that too. Like in World of Warcraft, everything is pretty much time gated there, but they have catch up. So like if you miss out on it the week before, then you can just grab all the stuff that you would have gotten from the week before. It just increases the caps of like the currency you can get. It increases the amount of things that you can get for crafting and stuff. So like there's certain caps that you have. I think that type of time gating is fine. I mean, I'm not the hugest fan, but I'm not a huge fan of like daily chores. Like that's one of the bigger reasons why I stopped playing RuneScape for so long is because there's like farming as a daily chore, stuff like that, and I just felt like I always had to go do like my birdhouse runs, stuff like that. And so like I'm not a huge fan of time gating stuff like that and like making them like chores. But at the same time, if it's not something that's like required for progress, I don't mind it. So like making the dungeons time gated once a week type of deal, I'm fine with stuff like that personally.
I think the main problem is that it's a poor approach to getting people to play your game.
Yeah,
I
you're not
think
wrong.
I think what you should do to get people to keep logging into your game is to have content that people want to do,
Yeah.
not have content that people feel forced to log in to do or they'll fall behind. I just think it's a poor mentality that the like gaming industry has gotten themselves into, and I think it would be better if they pulled away from it and just pushed toward actually interesting, worthwhile content that people enjoy.
Yeah. I think the only reason why I was so strong about the weekly content and stuff like that is just because whenever we've gotten new expansions, they're just not to like have a sour taste in my mouth, but there's just not as much content as I would like there to be whenever they release new expansions, and that's nowhere near the player's fault. And I think that's the only reason why I wouldn't mind if they added weekly content, just because it would prolong that expansion for me as a player. Because again, it's like whenever Ulukita came out, like yes, there was that storyline. We got the Ator's Power Stone, which we all know and love as an Iron Man player. But then it's like once you got your Kabua's fragments and you got your like once you got your Ator shoes, there wasn't much else in that region. And I think that if they were to have implemented something like a weekly or something, that would be cool in my head. But the only reason why I would like there to be weeklies or time kept or time gated content is strictly just because there isn't enough content for players to explore or do within a timely manner. So, but I also get the other side of the coin where it's like certain people IRL, they have jobs, they have families, they have kids, stuff like that. And then if they miss out on a daily or if they miss out on a weekly, they're 1 day or 1 week behind, and that does suck. It's one of those things where it's not really like a win or lose situation. It's like either way, people are not getting content, and it just kind of sucks in general. But
I think your problem will be solved though if they just made like repeatable content that was fun to do and
Mhm.
stopped tying like main parts of the game to new content. So the reason that they time gate things and the reason that they tie new stuff like the Dawn's gloves to boss splits is because they need to force people to do it. It's not because that's how they want you to achieve it. It's because they need to A, keep you logging in every week for their investors, and B, have something for you to force you to log in every week for their investors. But if they actually made every new expansion, there was some sort of content. For example, Land of Demons, there's supposed to be a 100 floor dungeon. If they did something interesting slash repeatable every new expansion, then there wouldn't be a need to time gate things to drag out the expansion. It would just be that that expansion has something interesting that people want to keep going back for. And I think that's really like the developers have failed us on that, in that there is nothing to do, and their solution is to add an end game item to something that's super time gated just to force you to keep logging in so that that boosts their player numbers.
and I
Yeah,
completely agree with that. I
yeah.
think if they were to just add things like that, it would be overall better. I do completely agree with that.
I,
I think time gated stuff within the mid game is fine. I think because they've got something to do afterwards. I think time gating stuff um, for content that's not related to veterans, because like we've done it all before, man. Like we're gonna play, we're playing no matter what. So don't slow us down because you can't keep up a good schedule of content. And I tend to agree with Sicklead there, where it's obviously you can't argue that high number or high login numbers is great for their bottom line. Like it's inevitable. Um, but yeah, it doesn't bode well for the people who are loyal to your game and that want to play it by giving them something that slows them down. And I think in any aspect of gaming, someone who has the ability to play 12 hours a day will and always should benefit more than someone who's only able to play 1 hour a day. Granted, RNG brought into it can definitely change the outcome. Not wrong at all, but it doesn't come across very positively to people who want to play your game and they just want to play it. Like we're all sitting there going, we just want to play your game, man. Just give us something to do. That's all. Like we want to
Well,
give you the time. You need to give us the time that we deserve.
so the problem, Quinny, between like the difference between the guy that can play 12 hours a day and the guy that can play 1 hour a day in the current system of the game is actually nothing, because
Yeah.
everything that you could possibly do with gear in this game has gear caps that are seasonal. So
Yeah.
the guy, the 780 gear score choice, can do all the same content that me creating a new account tomorrow could do. Because every
Yeah.
single aspect of quote unquote things to do in this game, which is virtually nothing, has gear caps, and there's no reason to get gear at all.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's just I think we're all kind of agreeing here. Like we just want more content, but just give us good content. That's kind of all we need, and we'll be happy.
Mhm.
Right? Something fun to do that's actually repeatable, something that keeps us playing, but for the fun aspect of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, end of the day, we all made Iron Man accounts because not only is it fun to be challenged, but also there's not really content at the end game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is
Well,
about the
fun.
mid game, but I just really enjoy it. Like the early middle game, it's just like so
Mm.
satisfying. I don't know why the end game struggles so much, but something about like the early to mid game, even like not using any of the catch up mechanics, just feels so nice and easy. Like, or not easy, but just like rewarding, and just feels like the end
Well,
game stuff just.
you got a lot ahead of you. You know, like you can actually see your path of progression at that point. You know, like being an Iron Man that's in the end game. I honestly feel like I'm playing a main account. Like I'm degenning Quint Hill for silver for Debo taps. Like that is all I'm doing right now. I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. Like I love enhancing, which is half the reason I'm able to do it. But there's there's really not much difference in the end, which is I imagine why Sick started his new challenge, because it's like, well, I don't want to join that grind. I want to start playing for fun again.
Well, it already felt like that, honestly.
Yeah.
The last 30 gear score was just Caphras. I was just grinding in a
Yeah.
circle at Gyfin for Caphras, and I was right back on that gear treadmill, and I did not
Mhm.
enjoy my last 30 gear score on the Ironman because it just felt like
Yeah.
a main account again.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
I mean, it's like
But yeah.
that. It's like that video that I think Fake uploaded where he drew that diagram in Paint where it's like a funnel system where at the beginning part of the game there's just so many different gear options for you to explore. And then
Mhm.
once you get to the mid game, it's even thinner, it's more narrow. There's fewer gear things to kind of explore, but you're still in that boss gear thing where you can either do Red Nose or Dimtree or like Geath or Griffin. And then once you get to that end game where you're like in the most narrowest part of the funnel, you are strictly just doing Debo's Fallen God. And at that point, it's just kind of boring because you're not able to explore as much at that point, which I think is why we all really enjoyed the early to mid game. It's because we're also seeing that sense of progression every day when we log on. Whereas
Mm.
opposed to us logging on every day to grind, let's just say like the average person can grind like an hour a day, right? If your limbo token takes an average of 10 to 15 hours, that one token is going to take so much longer for you to get as opposed for you to being able to play for 1 hour a day at the beginning or mid part, because that 1 hour every day you see that progression, you see the lineage, but when you're in the end game you
Mm.
don't see the lineage, which I think is why it's so fun in the early and mid game.
Yeah.
You get to do the thing you want to do once every 2 weeks in that case. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you go dry,
Literally.
like some people are 40 plus hours per token. That's
Dude,
like
fuck that,
over a
man.
month to spend 15 minutes doing the one thing that you want to do. So you grind for a
Yeah.
month and then do something for 15 minutes. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. I think Blue Squadron said he has one in what, 34 hours. I'm good, bro.
That's awful.
I'm good. I don't want to do it. I was excited to see the revamp of the Trial of Arethea, or however you pronounce it. But dude, the fact that you may not even get on the average, because then you have
Just
two
buy
sides
that
of the
off the
spectrum.
market, man.
Exactly. You have two sides of the spectrum. You have Mr. Rapless getting 3 in like 5 minutes, and then you have people that take over 15 to 20 hours just to get one. It's
Yeah.
insane. So
I
Just be
mean,
rapless, man.
Yeah,
I wish.
seriously.
I wish.
we've
Man.
all we've all watched Blue react to almost all of your Iron Man series, and the thing that I always hear him say is like, "Man, do you guys remember dropping an upgrade while grinding? You know,
Yeah.
like dropping something, going, oh, guys, that's an upgrade. We just gained 2 gear score there. That's huge. Let's go." You know,
Yeah.
you don't get that anymore. You're like, hey, I did 30 hours and now we get an attempt, and it's like,
That
sick.
was me with a base narc earring.
Right. An upgrade.
Seriously.
That was me with a Sula. It's like getting an Asula necklace. I'm like, holy shit, that's actually so big.
Mm.
I think the moral of the story is just play Iron Man and go back to the early game every few months.
Literally.
Honestly, like I think if they did a seasonal version of that season, like I mean, season is an Ironman essentially.
Hmm.
You just stop at 570 gear score, whatever it is. But I think to have something akin to Ironman where it's like, I don't know, a lot slower. Like we kind of need like a seasonal hard or like old school version, whatever they want to call it.
I would
Yeah.
That would be fun.
I would love to see something where they have a lot of like the modern convenience type of things, like silver not having weight, stuff like that. But they just like re-release areas, so they start off with the original 3 and then give us a few months to play through it, and then add Medaya, and then add like every couple months add new stuff every time. I think that would be super fun.
BDO
True.
classic-ish.
Yeah, BDO
BDA
classic
classic.
ish
It would be
with
really
no
cool.
silver weight and other things similar to that are annoying in the original game, you know. But I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't know. I don't know if they'll ever do it, but it would be really cool if they just made like how we have the Archer servers, we have the novice servers, season servers. I think it'd be really cool if they made one of them like how they're gonna do the hardcore PvP thing or
Mhm.
whatever. I think if they just
Yeah.
did that, but it's its own standalone server, make it 1 or 2 servers. Because I don't know about you guys, but I remember back in the day, even though it's not fun getting your spot taken over, compared to now, I'm sure that we would love to see because Sickwood is doing Shura runes right now. Like, let's just use that for an example. It would be so cool to just see like 5 or so players during your hour at Shura runes, just like coming into your rotation, and then you have that social aspect again. You know, because
Yeah.
nowadays you rarely run into people.
To just see someone else
Mm.
playing the game. Here's the thing.
Literally,
I AFK horse train outside of a safe zone on Arsha. And I've like weeks at a time. There is no one playing this game.
bro.
No, that's that's it, man. If you're not active, you're AFK, right? Or you don't log in.
Yeah.
There's no difference. There's really no difference.
I think that's about
That would be cool.
an hour though, so I guess you guys have anything else, or do we want to wrap up here? What are you guys feeling?
I think pretty good. Hey, we don't want to talk about too much if we're
Yeah.
planning to do something
True.
extra into the future either.
Yeah.
I think if
Definitely.
anyone who's watching, if you guys have any questions for us personally, depending on if you guys are watching this on Twitch or YouTube or wherever this is at, feel free to leave a comment asking us questions that you want to see answered, or give us topics that you want to see us talk about.
Yeah.
That sounds good. And we can talk about that next time we do this. I don't know if we're gonna make this a weekly thing or every other week or once a month type of deal, but I guess we'll figure that out later.
Oh yeah,
We'll get
it's
there.
been a
We'll figure
blast.
it out.
Yeah,
Been
this
great.
has been super fun. Thank you
I
guys
know.
for coming on and talking. That was super fun.
Of course.
I'll be in touch later with figuring out other plans, but this was super fun. Definitely
Yeah.
enjoyed it. All
Make
right.
sure you check everyone's socials out.
Yeah, check everyone
Get around
out.
us.
You guys
We're the
want to shout
future of
yourselves
BDO,
out?
guys.
Go check everyone out. I know Sickloot and Gallum are streaming right now.
Yep, I have
Go
them
check them
in
out.
my title. You can check them out, and then I will put it in the description of the video as well. So I'll put everyone's channels.
Let's go.
Hell
Ironman
yeah.
take over, baby. Let's take it over.
Let's go. All right. I will see y'all later then.
Take care,
Take it
guys.
easy, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.